We are going to have the principal from Conrad High School will be here in just a minute to share with us a little bit about some of the impact of working with refugees on his campus. Welcome, Principal. If you want to come on up and we will introduce you. We are excited to have you here, and thank you for serving our families at Conrad High School. You can come on up. And yeah, get yourself situated. We had the door locked, and so he's been trying to get in. So I'm sorry for that, but we're so glad to have you here and for the service that you do for all the students and our families. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Stage is all yours.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Good. I'm jealous now. This was the only day that I had to dress like this, and I didn't know what to expect, so I missed the opportunity. I don't know how many of you are familiar about Conrad High School. Some kind of, right? Okay. Good. This is heading to my second year. Actually, I just started my second year. Just briefly, 30 seconds about me. I'm Temesghen Asmeron. I go by Thomas, Temesghen, every dialect in between, right? I'm originally from East Africa. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Eritrea. Okay. So half of my family is from Ethiopia, half is from Eritrea. We used to be one country. Somehow, some angry people told us, no, from now onward, you're Eritrean, so we became Eritrean, right? Mm-hmm. I came to United States 1999 for college, of course. I have two brothers in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And my way to Dallas is by then my fiance and UT Southwestern. I came to do research here. I landed in education by accident. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, I knew nothing, but I knew what not to be, and that was a teacher, right? As I knew I was not going to be a teacher. Unfortunately, I ended up to be a teacher, and it turned out to be a great calling. My first assignment through Dallas Alternative School was at Long Middle School in Lakewood area. I don't know how many of you are familiar. Mm-hmm. So it's sad, and I had to admit in front of many people. So by then, I have been in Dallas for 5 years when I first joined, 6 years actually, in Dallas, but never been to South Dallas. So my interaction to Dallas was I drove through 35 South, exit on Beltline on Lancaster because I had a sister-in-law who lives there. It was a gated community, affluent, and my version of Dallas, southern part was that. And I came to education, and I saw what poverty does in the middle of Lakewood area. Lakewood, a place where there is a $5 million house, but there is also poverty on the literally walking distance. Kids, they were in the same school. I had a student when I was 8th grade maths teacher. Her father was multi-millionaire. Nerf gun, do you know the Nerf gun? Yeah, the people who came up with that, and they own all that company. Their daughter was my student. On the other hand, I had a student who didn't know whether meal was going to be on the table, and they're sitting in class. And I went home, I said, you know what, I'm going to stay in education. So that's my way to education, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Last year was my first year to Conrad, but a little bit to give you context also at a bigger scale. So I used to go to, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Flower Mound Valley Creek Church. Mm-hmm. So I used to go there, and we were very engaged in that church, small groups, everything, and we were comfortable, disconnected from my people. The more you get money, we buy houses a little bit further suburb. Mm-hmm. But at one point, you kind of have that sense of, what are we doing, right? Because you buy, but nothing is just inside, right? So we decided around 4 years to start a ministry for Eritrean, Ethiopian, the Tigrinya-speaking people, a church. We were going hopping from hotel to hotels, but somehow somebody saw us and said, actually, there is this guy called, they told us, their office was next door, Randy, and we saw him at this meeting, and he told us that their church is crazy about refugees, and they might help you with a place. And we reached out to Randy with Northwest Community Center here. They're attached to Northwest Bible Church. And we told them, hey, we're just meeting at this hotel. We're paying out of pocket. It's a few of us trying to do this. And they were like, this is an answer to our prayer. We have a place for you guys. You can meet in our center. And it was just a blessing. So back then, the center was not open. We were back in Douglas and Tolway area, northwest and Douglas. Then this center opened and we moved over here. Then somehow Dallas ISD also moved me to Conrad. So things are just heading over here. There might be bigger purpose or there might not be, but I believe in some sort of dispensation of time. So at this time I'm here, I'll do what I can, right? So that's mine. I said 30 seconds, it translated to 3 minutes. Yeah. That's me. Okay, good. Okay, good. So a little bit about Conrad High School, those of you who are familiar. So the high school is around 11 now to 12 years old, relatively new high school with the history of Dallas ISD. Most high schools are, I think Woodrow celebrated their 70 or 100 years, so it just goes a long time, right? So it comes with a blessing to do great things, but also it has a curse of not having a tradition, which means every year it's up to whoever comes to create some form of mold. But at the same time, also the uniqueness of Conrad High School is probably, we know for a fact, in the whole state of Texas, it's the most diversified school. But I believe it's also across the nation. I think it's the most, we have over 31 different countries, 52 different languages and dialects, and every belief and phase, you name it, is there. From believing to not believing to confused, non-confused, okay? So everything is at Conrad High School. Our enrollment has been growing. Currently, we're just at around the 1,300. We're dancing in and out of 1,300. So it's a large high school compared to where we're at. We're not like Skyline 5,000, but we're not like Madison also at 400. So relatively an average campus. It was not academically doing really, really terrible. There were first 3-4 years that the campus was doing awful. Then another principal came and a group of leaders, and they turned that campus around. Then it started doing well. But this is the definition of well. And I think someone said one time, it's not my quote, but somebody said, the official way of telling a lie is to tell a statistics, right? Right? Huh? Isn't that what they do, right? So I can tell you right now, 70% of our students are at a mastery level. But if you don't attach a face to that 30%, then you can feel good about that 70%, right? And we can, but that is just only for us, for leaders. But there is 30, which means out of every 100 students, 30 of them are not going to make it in life. Now, none of us would go to a doctor that would say, 70 of my patients get out of the operating table, and we're not going to be like, yay, I'm going to go. Or if your investor comes, 70% of these campaigns do well, invest your retirement, I think I'll hold to my cash, right? Yeah. Then why not in education, especially in education when it's attached to somebody's life, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where we come last year. So we saw what was happening. It's a decent campus. My first conversation was, okay, it's a decent, but decent is not enough because there is more into it. So this is just to give you a little bit of what we're going to discuss a little bit briefly, then I'll open it to Q&A. So the current refugee percentile, I'll give you the recent data we have, what have refugees done in our school, where do you all can fit in what we're trying to accomplish, and we'll open it to Q&A. But this is very important. So first thing we did, my first walking to the campus is we redefined what is our vision and what's our mission for campus. Because when we saw the headers in the school, I kid you not, I saw 5 different headers by 5 different principals, and the campus was 5 different visions. And you can't move when you have 5 different things. And vision is not something you pull it out of your pocket and just stick it there. People have to believe in it. People have to see what you see, right? All of us, if I were to tell you right now, draw a house, I guarantee you 6 different houses minimum will be drawn because of, I might draw a hut. You might draw something. Some of you might draw a mansion. Some of you might draw an apartment. So a house might mean different things to many things, unless we see an actual house, right? So we ask people from around the neighborhood, from Martha's to Dr. Janet, people from churches, people from teachers and parents. We ask them, where do we want to go? What is our vision? Where do we see Conrad? So we decided Conrad is going to be a campus that prepares all students to be competitive in a global society. That's what we see. It will be a campus that prepares everybody to be competitive. But what is our mission? Mission statement is graduating holistically. When we say holistically, not just academically, but my boss doesn't know my college transcript. How many of you got a job because of your GPA? Right? No one. Right? There are just a few things that even colleges are now get away. I mean, GRE, remember those of us, the younger ones probably don't know what GRE is. Is it still relevant now? I don't know. Yeah, no one cares about GRE because they know it doesn't measure aptitude, right? But holistically, how do we involve them emotionally? How do we involve them socially? How do we engage them? That's very important, and that's what we're looking. But at the same time also, in order to do that, we have to prepare them by providing them rigorous instruction, opening opportunities, and support them and all that. These are observable behaviors, and we have to articulate individual. But there is one embedded that word that we really, really need to emphasize is that to cultivate students' innovation. And literally, almost 2 hours we argued about that word because the small things matter. When we say cultivate students' innovation, it assumes there is existing talent. That is a choice we have to do, and as leaders, we have to have a clear conversation about either you're going to assume and you're not. It's a choice. Trust is a choice. Belief is a choice, because it's not fact. Sometimes even in churches and when we discuss about evangelism, we argue. I hope you all are okay me mentioning a little bit of my belief. So when we discuss about evangelism, people want to go back to number of verses that prove their perspective. No one cares about proof. People choose to believe what they want to believe. So you have to come across as somebody who is believable. The other person also have to be with a growth mindset to accept facts. Otherwise, it's not the number of facts. You know, some people, you talk to them for 2 hours, they don't believe you. All of a sudden, he comes and he tells her something and she's switching her mind. You're like, that's what I was saying. You know? The same thing also, we absolutely have to have a clear definition and a clear expectation that we have to believe there is existing talent in every kid. That is just non-negotiable. People have to choose to believe that. When we believe there is existing talent, guess what? We're going to find a way how to cultivate it. That's the bottom line. So that is what we do in every conversation. I try my leadership team to have conversation around it, and this is the mission. So to all of you who want to plug into what we do, I hope you see this part of you is going to be part of this mission statement. I believe if you do your mission statement, you'll find yourself in your vision. Mission statement, I tell my staff, is like you're packing, and I walk to your apartment or your house. I should be able to see what you're packing and telling you where you're going. If I am packing a snowboard, whatever it is, I don't know any snowboard, I don't know what they pack, but I should not assume you're going to Florida, right? I should say you're heading to Colorado, Albuquerque, Taos, somewhere, right? The same thing also. People can say about vision, fine, but let's talk about what I see today. That will tell me. If I tell you today I'm gonna lose weight and I'm just shoving everything, it doesn't make any sense, right? So that's what we argue. So this is our data. As you can see, the demography of our students is 21% is African American. 14.3 identify themselves as Asians, and we'll unpack that a little bit. We have around 2.8 Caucasians, 57.5 are Hispanics, and 3.6 unknown. We have around 1% multi-ethnic groups. Generally, in terms of linguistic assessment, we have around 57.8 LEP, but overall, the number of refugees falls around 27% of our demography. And let me tell you why these are not actual concrete data. Because this is basically a spreadsheet. You put some numbers and it gives you a graph, right? But how you put the number matters. So with African American, when we say 21%, for example, my kids are considered African American, just by pure skin color. But I guarantee you, if you were to put the experiences of who African American is, my kid should be like the Caucasian of every Caucasian, right? They're privileged, right? The same thing also, this African American, our African refugees are considered, because they're black, they tell them, you're African American, they say African American. But are they truly African American? Because we really have to see things from the context of their experiences. With the LEP also, the way we identify LEP is, which is disservice, and we have to figure it out collectively, how do we identify that talent. By the way, somebody has to hold me accountable to time. As you can see, I like to talk, so I'll be talking the rest of the day, okay? Just give me 2 minutes warning, okay? Okay. So with the LEP also, what we do is we send home a home survey. And when you send home survey, it's up to the people how they interpret that information. So we have two problems. One is, every metrics, when you try to measure any progress, people see it from a different, it can be also a hindrance to some opportunities, right? So there is a cultural fight that we fight because we're telling them what language they speak at home. And everybody interpret that information differently. Why do they want to know? Just tell them that we speak English. But the English they speak is not what they need, And there are some parents that speaking English is attached to being an American, right? We're American too. Just tell them we speak English. But when we see our demography, the fact that we see our LEP population runs up to 75%. This week, just yesterday, I was meeting with my data clerk, and one of our assistant principal is going over a list of students that we need to redo their home language assessment. So those numbers don't indicate the right indication. The same thing also with our Asian versus the Hispanics. We have a large students that are refugees, but since they're from any kind of Latin America, for them the version of refugee is just the ones that we know they're from either Central Africa or somebody from Asia. Okay. So when we see our assessment from what we collect from within, from the counselors, around 27 to 29.3% are actually first refugees to this country. Okay? So that is the number that we have as we speak. So what have refugees achieved? So this is our 2018 valedictorian, and many of you have seen her news on Channel 5, Dallas Morning News. So Albana is a Kosovo refugee. She was 5 months when she crossed the border back then when the Albanian ethnic group was just in a fight for their life. Her father was killed. Her older sister was killed. Her mom, she was 5 months old. Her mom carried her across the border while a war was raging. Her 5 months, another sister with her. That's her story. She left her dad behind, her brother behind, her sister behind, and she came to the United States through the refugee process. But let me step back about refugee. So many people don't understand what true refugee means. So I'm considered a refugee. I'm one of the few blessed. I had a college education. I had a brother who has been here for 4 years, sent me I-20, applied for college, accepted, flew from country. My brother was right at the airport, took me, told me what the menu says, right? We have kids that will tell you they're from Burma. They have never seen Burma. They were born in a refugee camp in Thailand, and their dad was in a previous refugee camp. Just because he is originally from Burma, he or she told them, you're Burmese, and they believe they're Burmese. But there is that identity crisis because they don't know the culture, they don't know many things. And they were hopping from one to the other things. The refugees through that, they experience quite a lot of trauma, but no one tells you that's trauma. Forget the refugees. Let me tell you myself, the last 6 years, me and my oldest brother, who has been here for 50 years, we're going through things to deal with some of our behaviors too. We didn't know. I have never heard when I was growing up a psychiatrist. Or psychiatrist for me, when I was growing up, is a place where people go when they go crazy, right? If you're healthy, you don't go for counseling. That's how we grew up. And we're just finding out so many things we didn't know were socio-emotional stress for us. We took them for that's the part of life. The only thing we realize is at one point we're just wondering, why is this aggression coming? Or why is this behavior coming? Or why is this self-pity? Where is it coming? But how did we get to there? Because of education, exposure, and trying to be honest with your feeling too. So many of our refugees also go through quite a lot of traumatic experiences. many experiences, from rape to physical abuse, from deprivation, you name it in between, because it happens to be that was the best that can get for them, they accepted it. But because you say it's normal, it doesn't mean it doesn't have ripple effect in your life. The effect is going to be there. How you define it doesn't matter. It's going to be. So they live with this trauma. And at the end of the day, we have also, as educators, that are dealing with these kids without knowing the context of their life. So that's the reality we're trying to unpack from within our building. So she comes, the first thing she heard about being valedictorian, freshman to Conrad High School, she told one of our counselor, Ms. Gill, she said, I'm going to be a valedictorian. And Ms. Gill was, you're crazy, do you know what it takes to be a valedictorian? But she took her under her wing. She showed her the way. She helped her. Every time she had a problem, she gave her an opportunity to come vent through that mentoring process. Surely enough, she became a valedictorian. Now she is pre-med student, first year at UT Austin with full scholarship. The year before that, our valedictorian was an Ethiopian refugee who came as a 5-year-old here, and she became a refugee. I can give you stories after stories that we hear about refugees. Actually, yesterday we were in a meeting with the United Nations High Commission about refugees, and they came to visit also the center and visited our school. What we tend to fail is to tell the story. What we tend to fail is to tell not only of the refugees, of you all. Because the narrative out there is that the country is scared of refugees. What I see in reality is actually, I have never been, and believe me when I say this, I absolutely have people in every country, because of Eritreans and Ethiopians are literally everywhere. It's just everywhere. So we hear stories from every country. There is no any place in the world that welcomes refugees like we do here in the United States. And let me tell you also, it's not mostly the refugees that are welcoming refugees. It's actually the Americans, which are mostly Caucasians and some African Americans, but mostly it's the Caucasians that accept that's politically incorrect. Make sure you edit that if it doesn't fit your narrative, but that's the reality. But we're not telling this story. We're not telling the story of success of refugees, what value they add to our society. How many, I don't know, just 2 weeks ago, our president, of all the refugees that are doing great things, there was one illegal immigrant who killed somebody, and that was, we're talking about 50 states. Over 300 million people. All the good things that happen by you and the ones that are coming is erased by just one, because somehow it fits a political narrative. Guess what though? That becomes the story because it captures the media, it captures everything else. Then we have to do a better job telling the story of Albania, story of all the ones, the valedictorians that come with all this deficit and do great things as well. So some of the things we saw in our campus is almost 100% graduation rate from our refugees. They graduate. And in spite of everything they go through, they want to graduate from high school, 100%. We have over 90% of them, they go to college and career. And when we track, I have 1 year from our campus, but when overall we see around 90% of them go to college or career, the 10%, most of refugees, this is the problem. They will tell you they're 17 because that's all they knew. For example, my dad, my biological father, his age is between 86 to 90. We don't know. My mom's the same thing because no one told them. My dad still, if I were to ask him today, he will tell me I'm 42. After a week, probably I'm 27. He's like, I don't know, ask your mom because no one knows, right? Yeah. Well, we do it here too, right? Just ask your mom. But what they do is they come with this responsibility. Some of them, by the time they graduate high school, actually there is a pressure on them to start a family or support family. Albana, while she's becoming a valedictorian through that 4 years, she was also supporting her mom by working another job. And still she became a valedictorian. Attendance, they come to school. Of the kids that go skip, we just rarely see a refugee, first-time refugees that are not coming to school. Leadership and achievements, you name it. Last year we had so the year prior to me coming to Conrad, our scholarship was at $6.2 million. I met with AIF, Educational consulting firm that supports us. They recruited by the district. They go to campuses to help us with scholarship. We had conversation how much we can increase. 10%. 10% from 6.4 is to 7 million, right? And we said, why not 10 million? Let's push it. Push. If we can, we can. If we can't, at least we have a reason to assess our progress. Because of our students, we ended up to get over $9.4 million scholarship just last year. And almost all, I wish I was going through some of my pictures. We had, so the Young Women's Organization, YMCA, every group that was here in Dallas that approached us, most of our students that went and got the scholarship are somehow part of the refugee group. Let me give you one statistics that's really bothering me. I don't have a number where I can attach it. So there is this notion that, Hispanics are hardworking people. Yes, they are, but only the first generation. The second generation, we're losing them, and no one is paying attention. The teens, Hispanic teens, we're losing them to teen pregnancy, just laziness. Because that work ethic, that commitment to be something is disconnected, and we have to do something about it. So we can go through cadet, through our NAF academies, through our collegiate, whenever there is an opportunity and they're exposed, they aspire to it. Even my own story. When I went back home to college, Asmeron University had 600 students, freshmen to 40, 600. Okay? So 600 students, freshmen, we were around 200 students, the whole college, the whole country, okay, 200 students. So you have to take a national examination. We got there, so freshmen, everybody takes the same course, everybody. By December, there is a national exam, again, within the university. Out of the 220, around 70 kids will be kicked out. So you take a test, then after you pass the test, you have to choose. So I was offered with these choices. I was science, I had maths, physics, biology, chemistry. That's it to choose from. And there was one environmental sciences department. That's all the choice I had. And I come to University of New Mexico, Albuquerque. My brother gives me a catalog, a book. I said, what is this? He said, you can choose. I said, you can choose any of this? Yes. And you have to choose your own courses? Yes. I'm like, wow. Then I changed my major to biochemistry. First I wanted to be a computer programmer. Then I said, it was a little bit hard. I dropped. You can do that. Back home you can't. You can't. That's it. I mean, you have to follow. Then I went to biochemistry. I loved it and went for it. Actually, I was going to go pharmacy. And I came to UT Southwestern. I can choose now. Yeah, you can choose. There is no age limit. Everybody wants to just suck every energy we can get. That is the story we have, because this beautiful land of ours opens opportunity unlike anywhere else. So that is the story of refugees. Where do you fit? I did something. Okay, here you go. So these are some of the things where I see in some form you all can fit in. One is we have a big problem in language acquisition because English is one of the trickiest languages, right? We can say quite a lot that we did. So when I was first a teacher at Long Middle School, I was called to the principal's office because I told a student to shut up. And my principal was like, you can't say shut up. I said, but she was talking. And she said, yeah, but you can't tell her to shut up. I said, well, I have to teach. I have to. So for me, shut up was just be quiet, right? I was like, shut up. And she was like, oh. She went home, told her mom that I told her to shut up. And I said, yes, I told you to shut up, because I didn't know the distinction. So there are quite a lot in terms of language acquisition. I know. So they need that mentorship, right? So educate about how you communicate, how you do job interview. Even though we have great teachers, we have programmers, we schedule them, but language is a long-term commitment, right? How you, even thank you and please. How do you write an essay? Because I still struggle, because I think in my language and culture, I write things that make sense to me. When you read it from the other end, it's like, it's disconnected, or there is no relevance. Some of the struggle that we have. Clarity of systems. People get lost because no one explains to you how the system works. And unfortunately, or fortunately, we live in a very intricate system. It's beautiful, but until you see the clarity of where the system is, you kind of get lost. We have many people that will come to the United States, even people that went to college with a bachelor's degree, that get frustrated because they were like, okay, where do you start? That is a very complicated. That's one thing we see. Socio-emotional support. So that's big. So at this year, we spend around 3 hours. We have a great teacher, Mr. Dumaris, who walked the whole campus about what does an actual refugee means. What do they go through that? So we need that support too for Conrad High School. The last one is mentorship, a long-term mentorship. Mentorship that mentors and also tracks progress. We need somebody who is committed for that as well. How does that look like? And you should see it also from your commitment, from the time you have, from the organization you're attached, or whatever it is. But these are the major ones for people that we see. How you can fit into Conrad High School at this point. Resources-wise, this is my belief. Unless we're doing all that we can with what we have, I think we should be able to stop receiving gifts, but just do what we can do. But there is quite a lot soft skills that we need for our campus, and that's one thing I see you all can be plugged in. Okay, good. So these are some of the things that were to fit additionally. Tracking students' progress from all angles. At this point, what we're doing is, so from speed, from athletics, every club that we have, we are instituting that they have to monitor student progress. All coaches, if you're an athletic coach, you should monitor their, because the notion is, because quite many times, everything we do could be only good for us. Let's say if my basketball team go and won state championship, that's good for us, for the school, for the neighborhood. It's a great thing. But we have to ask what is for that child. Because we have to be honest about numbers. If someone graduates from Conrad High School with the basic foundation for college and beyond, that kid is almost 99%, unless they do some dumb thing, guaranteed to have a living wage with a good standard of life. If a kid does well in college, in high school basketball, number-wise, going to college, let's be honest, we're not having LeBron James' team, right? Let's say 10 of them get to college. Of all college, how many will go to pro? I don't know. Of those 10, probably one. And they go through pro year, how many of those one will survive through their pro year? Not many. So why do we have to bet 100% on that? So we have to change, and there is a tradition battle going on right now, and that's where we need people to fit in too. Early intervention, because last year we had around 62 kids that were not to graduate because of attendance and other grades. But now we're tracking kids early on to make sure that we have somewhere a check mark, we can check where everybody is. Mentorship, of course, those, and internship opportunities too. We're trying to redefine and brand our campus to be a NAF Academy building for Dallas ISD. Last year we had 4 campuses, then we're trying to bring them to be a NAF Academy campus for the district. So 4 distinguished, 1 in the process of distinguishing. We're working with, I just got a word on Wednesday, somebody from IBM and Microsoft are gonna come to visit with us to give us a little bit of skills for building programming for our teachers, training for programming. And of course, we have the NAF and collegiate. We're just trying to do everything, trying to create opportunity for our campus. How did I do?
You did great. You've
Okay,
got
good.
1 minute for Q&A.
Okay, good. Good. All have the most difficult questions.
It's really hard because I just personally, having been a part of like Dallas ISD professionally and in a volunteer, like it means a lot to hear from you.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing. I know that's not a question, but I feel like I could email you with 9 million questions. Okay, great.
Okay.
I'll pick you up on it.
But I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for choosing to serve. It's not easy commitment. But remember, you're touching a child like me. It's because of someone gave an opportunity to my brother that I ended up here. My family is well. My generation is changing. It's just one touch. You don't know who you're touching. Mm-hmm. If it was not for that Miss Washburn from Kansas City, a white old lady who came to Africa to see her son, who was on a Peace Corps and went to a village, not to a city, to see her son, and saw this little black kid barefoot doing great things, and she saw him and she said, what's his next step? And her son told her, he's just going to finish high school and go to farm. And she said, what if we ask his parents to give him a graduate opportunity for college? And that's what led to mine and many others, just as that small touch. It might not go that far, but at least the kid that is in the brink of discouragement is the one that you're touching. He or she might not realize, you might not realize, but the work you do, it matters. We should not step back from service, because I have seen it all. I have nothing at one point, and I have more than what I have ever dreamed, but deep inside me, I'm telling you, thing and the stuff are just the stuff. That human connection and service is what inspires. So you're doing a great work. So those of us who are in position, sometimes we take credit, but the work matters for all of us. And you're renewing humanity, belief in us. So I really appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, okay?